It doesn't matter what year you are. I'm head of the associates. If I give you an assignment, you do it.
Hey everybody, this is your daily dose of all things royal.
That summer, I was going to be on hiatus from work, but I had travel plans, and a castmate of mine had said, just make sure in your summer plans that you leave room for magic.
Recently, she explained a castmate had advised her not to be so structured about her summer of eating, praying, and loving. Keep 1 week open, this castmate said. Leave room for magic. So she'd been saying no to all kinds of things, reserving 1 week, even turning down a very dreamy bike trip through the lavender fields of southern France.
But no, I mean, I really think it was one of those moments that had I gone in that other direction with these people who had nothing but good intentions, really, but it wasn't organic to what I wanted to be doing, and I knew that in my core, the site would be completely different. And I think especially the surprise factor of it is that, you know, my castmate, Gina Torres, who plays Jessica on the show, she gave me some advice a couple years ago, and she will say it often. She calls me Nutmeg, but she'll be like, Nutmeg, just leave room for magic.
She gave me some advice a couple years ago.
Just make sure in your summer plans that you leave room for magic.
A couple years ago.
You sit on a throne of lies.
Welcome back, my gorgeous, good-looking friends. This video is all about these two eating their own words. We're going to talk a little bit about what they have said in the past, as well as understanding why Prince Harry is a danger to this country and why he needs to get booted ASAP. How many of you remember that Harry did a podcast with Dax Shepard? I'll be honest, at that time when it came out in May of 2021, I wasn't paying too much attention to Harry. The only thing that I could tell you about it was that he said that the First Amendment was bonkers. So in light of the recent developments that Harry has been actively trying to censor American free speech, I decided to revisit that podcast and actually pay attention to it. And boy, there were some wonderful little gems. Take a listen.
You learn all these fairy tales when you're growing up, like, oh, and the prince gets the princess and all that. I think it'd be so bizarre for you to be told this story and that the ultimate prize would be to become royalty, and you'd be sitting there just feeling like a normal person, like, well, this doesn't feel all that euphoric. Like, I feel like that would be a real cognitive dissonance moment. Like,
I do think that kind of old way of thinking of the prince, the princess, like all these little girls reading these wonderful fairy tales going,
Yeah.
oh, all I want to be is a princess. And I'm thinking,
it's not so rad.
yeah, but you know, I forgot. I'm not going to get it right, so I'm not going to say it. But my wife had the most amazing sort of explanation to that, which is almost like something. Oh, I'm not going to get it right, but you don't need to be a princess. You can create the life that will be better than any princess or.
Stupid f***ing moron. You realize what's gonna happen to you? We didn't have connections? Some cop goes by the book and they charge you with attempted murder. You're a good guy and I'm very grateful. You're a f***ing hypocrite.
Thank you to my gorgeous, good-looking friends for going over and sharing your voice over on this video that Megyn Kelly did the other day. While we are starting to see some noise around this situation with Harry interjecting himself into American civil liberties, I am disappointed, though, that this is failing to gain traction and momentum. You would think more people would be picking this up, but instead there are so many that are still so preoccupied with being upset that the royal website had been updated to reflect Archie and Lilibet's new titles. While I agree that the palace should have updated the website when they updated the website for the Wales' children, that should have been done because if they were following the law, which they are, they should have applied it as well to Archie and Lilibet. And knowing what we know about Meghan Markle, it must have drove her crazy to see every single day, because you know that she was checking the website every single day to see if the names would reflect that. And she probably got to a point where she said, I had enough. You know, we need to start capitalizing on our royal connection and merch the titles. And this is what happened. And unfortunately, the palace became reactive and were put in a position that they had no other choice but to do it. I think now we need to be putting our focus and attention on this situation with Harry and interfering with our American policies. And I think that that's more grounds to affect him and those titles if the US can kick him out, because now he is posing a threat to our democracy, which will have ramifications for the UK. And I don't think that King Charles wants that. So allow me to put this into perspective to bring everybody back on focusing on what is important. Okay, so let me point out something here. Many of you have probably seen this video. If not, I will link it down below. But when they were talking about Prince Harry, I got the impression that they didn't take this seriously. Take a look.
Wait for it, Stu. Everything comes full circle. Prince Harry. Prince Harry was a commissioner of this group. Prince Harry, who is on record as saying he thinks the First Amendment is, quote, bonkers, had his hand in putting, well, Twitter's hand over our mouths, over all of our mouths. There is no end to the nefariousness of this couple and where they use their limited powers to try to silence Americans.
The key phrase that Megyn Kelly used was limited powers. And as you can see, the guests that she had on this podcast laughed. And right after that, there was no more discussion about it, which indicates to me that they don't fully understand the seriousness and gravity of what Harry is doing in the United States. I was very surprised that Megyn Kelly admitted that this was the first time that she knew about Harry's involvement with the Aspen Institute. As a society, I think we've become too reactive. This man has been involved for the last 2 years in actively trying to change the landscape around social media, around the internet, and affecting what type of information we can consume. And while I understand that Prince Harry by himself is unlikely to make any changes within our government, the group of people that he is working with and collaborating on to push these policies are the ones that are going to affect all of us. And what I think journalists need to understand is that if they are successful and do adopt some of the things that Harry has come up with in agreement with the rest of the group in laying down this type of ideology, is that all the journalists who believe in a free press will most likely be affected. And if this group does succeed in getting laws passed, then it will be too late. And it's not only this report that Harry has had his hand in playing with trying to censor Americans. The scary part is that the direct involvement Prince Harry has had in getting people banned from platforms and taking away people's communities because of his connections with big tech and our government. No one really knows about it because US media, tech firms, and these NGOs are all working together to push a specific narrative in order to profit, manipulate, and control the American people. For the last few years, this has been going on. And it's not just Prince Harry and Meghan that are doing it, but for our purposes here, it's what we know the best and what we can talk about through experience. There has been suppression. There has been attempts to silence people. The media now claiming that the popularity of Meghan and Harry has plummeted from the fallout of the book and Netflix. No, that's inaccurate. The data that these journalists are going off of for years has been wildly skewed and biased because of the paid PR campaigns to inflate the optics. Jack Royston is notorious for printing a whole bunch of lies and pushing it out, and all of a sudden now backpedaling to correct himself because the whole world knows that these two are frauds. And that's because they don't have Sunshine Sachs anymore protecting them. There is a correlation between the perceived drop in popularity and Sunshine Sachs no longer representing Meghan and Harry. As of August 2022, the facade of the Sussex brand started to really crack. Without the resources from the PR company to leverage relationships with the major left-wing media outlets, damaging stories started to emerge. In conjunction with that, they were fighting against the public who shared opinions. Now, the army of bots and the paid people the Sussex camp has funded has reduced drastically, but they are still out there and they're still causing problems. And now that the curtain has started to lift, more and more people are seeing things that would have been suppressed by the Meghan and Harry PR machine because it was all about the optics. And when you look back at that interview that they did with Oprah, many Americans were able to form their own opinion. However, it was the paid PR that created those optics of the interview actually being a success in America and that we were on Team Sussex. Anyone who dared to speak out were targeted viciously by the Sussex machine. Let's remember Bethany Frankel. She was one of the first high-profile figures that spoke out about the couple in a tweet, recently revealed that a high prominent figure reached out to her and asked her to take down the tweet. Bethany did so because she understood that there was going to be backlash and there was a potential for her to get canceled. She wasn't going to jeopardize her brand over Meghan Markle, so she took the tweet down. Bethany's rights as an American was taken away as a result of the intimidation tactics that brand Sussex uses. And Bethany is not alone, as there have been many paid coordinated smear campaigns online to bully, intimidate, gaslight others into being silent. U.S. Homeland Security has an obligation to protect its U.S. citizens. We have a Prince of the UK on U.S. soil supporting and funding a group of radicalized people who are terrorizing Americans for not agreeing with the Harkle propaganda. In addition, this man is asserting himself on matters that will affect our policies and governance surrounding American freedoms. Quite frankly, this should be enough for immediate deportation. And let's not forget, add on top of that, Harry's admission to the public, not only in interviews, but also in his book, of doing illegal drugs. And this is the last point, that if anything that you take away from this video is remembering this, that all the people who currently serve, the veterans and those that lost lives in wars, that they are the ones who gave their service to defend and protect the freedoms we are afforded as Americans today. Harry has zero business being involved with U.S. veterans, as he clearly doesn't respect the main reasons why Americans choose to serve. All those that are a part of this country and that have served or is currently serving should be outraged that this is being allowed to happen in this country. We now have to ask the question, what exactly are you fighting for if we are allowing foreign influence to affect those same civil freedoms that are being defended? Why are you going to risk losing your life over someone who is directly trying to undermine it and the country is allowing it? Am I making sense on why there should be more outrage and more attention being put on this? If that doesn't get you, then let's look at where American tax dollars are going. I want to know how much money was given to this project and how much money these commissioners were paid, because they sure didn't do this for free. In the 2021 impact report, they dedicated one page to the impact that was made from this report, but was funded, God knows how much money was given, but it says here, co-chaired by award-winning journalist Katie Couric, cybersecurity expert Chris Krebs, and civil rights leader Rashad Robinson, Aspen Digital's Commission on Information Disorder included representatives from across disciplines and the political spectrum. This diverse group undertook a 6-month-long investigation to understand the multidimensional impacts of mis- and disinformation. Okay, here we go. The commission held internal discussions and gathered perspectives from dozens of experts, community leaders, academics, researchers, tech industry representatives, and lawmakers. It also studied over 500 pages of materials, including news articles, research reports, and academic papers. The final report offers a viable framework for action, making 15 recommendations. Remind you that Harry was so proud of these 15 recommendations that he was pushing it for a while, for how government, private industry, and civil society can help increase transparency and understanding, build trust, and reduce harm. In April 2022, former President Barack Obama highlighted the piece at the top of his reading list on disinformation and democracy. Yeah, you guys really think that all this work and effort was done for free? I want to know how much of my money went towards this crap. When you look at the impact at a glance, this is just like the Archwell website. In response to calls from the commission and others, the Rockefeller Foundation launched a 3-year, $10 million project to combat false public health information. All right, they launch it. More money being circled around is what I'm seeing here. Next was Twitter responded to the report by announcing the creation of the Global Moderation Research Consortium of experts in alignment with 2 of the commission's recommendations. I haven't been able to find any information or any evidence that this group was even formed and exists. So where are we with that? Nowhere. And then the last one will get you. Nearly 180 news stories were generated with multiple outlets calling the report sweeping, including Bloomberg, CNN, and the Washington Post. The Post's editorial board also endorsed the work. I failed to mention that those news outlets and stories were predominantly left-wing and biased. So really nothing that different, considering they all have been engaged in trying to control the various narratives with this type of suppression and censorship. So let's get down and into this to see exactly what America is paying for. So I went ahead to look this up so I could actually see what Matt Taibbi was looking at, because it really didn't explain the correlation between the report and the money being spent. So when I look at this description, it says the Aspen Network of Development Entrepreneurs, ANDE, will launch a catalyst fund with the goal of soliciting a broad set of hypotheses around the problem of gender bias in acceleration services and potential solutions that will yield better investment results for women-led businesses. Initially, my first reaction was maybe this grant is not tied to funding the Aspen report. So let's go back to this tweet for a second. So initially, when he said that the Aspen Institute, which receives millions a year from both the State Department and U.S. aid, on the surface, when I look at this, I immediately assumed that it was this amount of money, $6.5 million, that was given to the Aspen Institute to make this report. And I'm sure many others who equally have come into this for the first time looking at his tweets probably thought the same thing. But he was very clever in the way that he presented the information associating the grant with the report, but then not actually saying that that grant was dedicated to funding this report. Unless I missed it somewhere, this doesn't connect the two. And not many people are really going the extra mile to see what's really going on. But it's your lucky day because I went ahead and did it. So this is what I found. So in the database, I ran a report to see all the grants that were being awarded to the Aspen Institute, and particularly focusing on money that was granted or released to the Aspen Institute in the year of 2021. As you can see from the various grants, that total amount is $41,713,773. And that's spanning across 5 grants. And that's spanning across 5 grants in which over the 9 years, this total amount should be allocated to them. So every year, depending on what the schedule is for the particular grants, a certain amount is released from the pot of money. So this is the total that they have, but in 2021, the amount released to the Aspen Institute was $10.8 million coming from 3 grants. So let's take a look at what those grants are for. We'll start from the bottom and work our way up. The first one is granted from the Department of State. The first one released $5 million, and this was for the strengthening and increased people-to-people ties through virtual exchanges between youth in the United States and in the NEA region. No idea what the NEA region is, but it shows that the place of performance is multi-state, congressional district 90. Not so sure on how that works. So the next one was for $4.9 million, and it came from the Agency for International Development. The description of this grant says, USAID will co-invest with the private sector to develop and promote investment in Guatemalan entrepreneurs and innovators who are creating technology-driven, market-led development solutions and need investment capital to address development challenges. Entrepreneurs and businesses will be working cross-sectionally to build resilience to climate change by expanding renewable energy, increasing access to renewable energy, health, agriculture, water and sanitation, information technology, including telemedicine, fintech, and education in regions with high levels of out of migration and strengthening food security and nutrition. Place of performance, all or mostly Guatemala. Wow. Glad to see that my tax dollars are going to help the rest of the world become more advanced and competitive. Awesome. And finally, we tackle this last one, which was mentioned in Matt Taibbi's Twitter post. And remember, this was the one where the description made no kind of sense, and it said that they will launch a catalyst fund with the goal of soliciting a broad set of hypotheses around the problem of gender bias in acceleration services and potential solutions that will yield better investment results for women-led businesses. So here we have a description that's very vague and taking advantage of the minority class, which is women. Awesome. For this grant, only $900,000 was released in 2021 from the pool of $6.5 million. And within that, a subaward was granted to Vilcap Inc. for $150,000. So from that $900,000 that was released, $150,000 was pulled out and given for the purpose of Advancing Women's Empowerment Fund seeks to address the significant gap in access to finance for women-led small and growing business. Currently estimated by the International Finance Corporation at nearly $320 billion in developing countries. Each grantee has been awarded at or below $150,000 to implement a 12-month project focused on testing, piloting, or scaling solutions to the financing gap for women-led SGBS in South and Southeast Asia. Okay, sounds sort of legit. So the next logical question is what's going on with the $750,000 that's left? Where is it being used? All or mostly in Thailand? Well, isn't that something, huh? I'm not going to jump to conclusions just yet, but I'm sure a lot of you are probably thinking the same thing that I am. Something just does not feel right. But for our purposes here, we know that $10.8 million was given in grants by the US government in 2021. So let's see how much of an impact our American dollars are making, especially in regions of Guatemala and Thailand. In the 2021 Impact Report, this is the same report that had the one-pager on the misinformation, disinformation report that Harry and team put together. So they put together this beautiful, colorful statement of activities designed to deflect and not call into question certain numbers, and we're going to talk about that. So let's start with the first color wheel. As you can see, normally if you're not colorblind, the color green stands out. And traditionally, you associate the color green with a positive. So what they're saying here is that project and federal grants totaled over $100 million. Now, let's keep in mind that only $10.8 million came from the government. So the rest of that money, yes, indeed, were grants coming from various organizations, and they list those. As you can see, a lot of foundations that are parking money to avoid paying taxes. No surprises that Harry and Meghan didn't even donate $1,000 to it. I mean, they literally list every donor that had given money, and Harry and Meghan nowhere to be found. And then they totaled around $40 million in like cash donations and gifts. So $180 million is what they're saying the operating revenue was. So now let's take a look at the operating expenses to run this business. This is very deceptive when you look at this number, 72 million or almost 73 million for policy programs. So when I look at this, it's showing over 50% is going towards stuff that's costing 72 million, almost 73 million. So when you look at the rest of the pie chart, we're seeing youth and engagement, 3 million. I mean, really small numbers. So obviously your curiosity is piqued to find out what is that 72 million about. But hold on to that thought because I'm going to come back to it in a second. So of course, within the financial statement, they have their liabilities and assets, where liabilities is over 53 million. And then when you look at the assets, especially the investment piece, the green again, it's over $300 million. 300 million is a lot of money. And in this report, of course, they do not break down what those investments are. And these numbers, to me, seem a little bit smoke and mirrorish, if you know what I'm saying. So what do? We go and we find the IRS 2021 tax return. So this is their tax return, and I pulled this from their website. Remember I told you that colors make a huge difference, and we would be revisiting back the $72 million that was showing for almost over 50% of the operating expenses. This is where now I start to raise red flags. If you look here, salaries, other compensation, employee benefits, almost 70 million. And when you look at the revenue piece where it shows number 10, where it says investment income, they have listed as 1.8 million. They didn't report that. As you can see, it says investment income, net appropriated for operations, almost $10 million. I may not be the brightest, but that looks wrong. And when you look at the total revenue, they're reporting 180 million, and this report only says 171 million. So somewhere there's 10 million gone. What's going on? But what do I know? I'm just a tax-paying citizen who follows the rules. I don't know anything about how to hide money and move money around in order to avoid paying taxes or avoid paying the least amount of taxes, let's just say. But back to this, it's a lot of money for the staffing and compensation. So let's take a look at what the executives are making. The executives, they get paid quite nicely. If you look at the top dog, it's almost $1 million. You've got some getting over $500,000. I'm sure that there's other bells and whistles that add to this. So now when you look at the functional expenses, it's quite obnoxious. They've given compensation to the trustees in the amount of almost $3 million, the directors. You've got the expenses that are costing $500,000, and then the management and general expenses. I'm wondering if, that's contracted people. And when you look at the trustees, they're all very wealthy people. So why are they giving compensation to them and more money? I mean, do you see what I'm saying? Like, when you look at the report and they talk about the kinds of impact that they're making, it really isn't a lot of impact. And what they wrote on the IRS statement about what the business is doing or the nonprofit is doing, well, let me read it to you so you can see for yourself. So the mission of this organization says, the Aspen Institute is a people-serving organization that works with partners across the United States and around the world to build a free, just, and equitable society. The Institute creates positive change by inspiring inclusive dialogue and empowering leaders to solve, and they don't even finish the mission statement on here. And then they break down now the different service accomplishments or the work that they are doing or the programs that they have and the amount of money. So the first one is the biggest nut of this whole entire organization, and it says policy programs. Now remember, that was the $72 million that is going into operating this so-called impact affecting society organization, where it says the Aspen Institute's policy programs explore and identify solutions for problems ranging from economic distress to educational opportunity, from climate change to racial disparities, in an effort to influence decision makers in the public and private sectors to advance the best and most inspired proposals. Our policy programs range in size from $100,000 to $15 million in annual revenue and expenses. So it says here the expense is 73 million, including grants was 18 million of that. Like, somehow I don't see how this money is being used for anything of substance. This particular division really is focused on affecting policy. This is where Prince Harry falls into the mix. And somewhere in that pot of money, I'm sure he was given some of it. Anyhow, the next one, this one will get you, says campus activities. In addition to its headquarters in Washington, D.C., the Aspen Institute also conducts much of its work on its founding campus in Aspen, Colorado, which provides natural beauty and quiet surroundings that encourage thoughtful reflection that refreshes mind, body, and spirit. One of our programs that use the campus is our Aspen Seminar, which challenges individuals to think more deeply, listen more attentively, and refine their ability to lead in an increasingly complex and conflicting world. Seminar participants engage in challenging conversations about enduring questions of ethical and effective leadership, gaining a greater capacity to lead with courage and conviction. This is like Archwell on steroids. Now, the last one says the Aspen Global Leadership Network. The Aspen Global Leadership Network is a growing worldwide community of entrepreneurial leaders from business, government, and the nonprofit sector, drawing from fellows in over 60 countries who share a commitment to enlighten leadership and to use their extraordinary creativity, energy, and resources to tackle the foremost societal challenges of our times. All have participated in the flagship Henry Crown Fellowship or in one of the dozen Aspen Institute leadership initiatives it has inspired in the United States, Africa, China, Central America, India, and the Middle East. Each summer, the network gathers to reconnect and, like, I can't even finish this. Seriously, like, when you look at the impact report, the metrics on it really has no substance in the sense. They're not like making a difference of like feeding people, getting people off the street from being homeless. What about our veterans, those that have served, for them to have this democracy and to get together to share ideas? What is going on with that? Like, I feel this is such a sham. And, as we see clearly, Harry being involved, all these people think about is making money and exploiting vulnerable people. And that's exactly what they're doing. Now, when we looked at that grant that said Thailand and Guatemala, nowhere in the impact report talks about their work in South Asia. So, what is really going on down there? There was nothing in this report talking about helping women in business. So why did they get money from the government? This is the most that they talked about the economy being equitable, building a more inclusive economy. So in this report, they put this here, and according to this, it says this growth summit, the metrics that they think is important is that they had 50 speakers, 1,800 purpose-driven leaders. Like, I swear I'm going to bang my head against the wall if I hear purpose-driven one more time. And $59 million in commitments to inclusive growth. Now, is that the Amber Heard commitment as pledging versus donating? Because really, I don't care about hearing about this crap. I want to understand, is there going to be more jobs open? Is there going to be access to more people? Quantify that kind of stuff. This kind of crap is pure fluff. And you can see a lot of these folks, the speakers, probably got paid hefty fees to just go attend and participate preaching and virtue signaling on what the rest of the world should be doing. What is very clear here, though, is that this report has a lot of focus on the youth and talking the same word salad that you hear Meghan and Harry talk about. It's the same word salad that these Dems have been trying to brainwash this generation and the generations after that. It is infecting our institutions. It's infecting the way we think or not being allowed to think because of the hidden agendas that we are seeing to profit off of all of us. the Clintons really paved the way for a lot of these wealthy liberal Democrats who have these foundations set up because essentially they have figured out a way to make lots and lots of money. So it's no surprise that the CEO of the Aspen Institute actually was part of the Clinton administration. Can't say that I'm surprised, but as you can see, that these folks really trying to get a hold and control the masses to profit. I do believe that there are some good people out there, but when you see the same people clinging together, and especially when Harry and Meghan are involved, then you know that this is all about exploiting and taking advantage of people who are vulnerable. And that's exactly what we have going on. Look, Harry knows there's profit in suffering. He understands that being a victim and taking advantage of victims is profiting. But look at the people he's surrounded by, the people that have been advising him, the people that, he's trying to aspire to be like. These are folks that are injecting constant fear, and they're the ones doing it. If you really think about it, think about how much gaslighting and racial division that Harry and Meghan have caused. They know that it's profitable. Listen to what Harry said back in 2021. At the time, I wasn't paying attention to this fool, but when you listen to this Dax Shepard interview that he did on that podcast, he fully is aware of how supply and demand works. Listen.
Again, I don't want to start sort of going down the First Amendment route because that's a huge subject and one of which I don't understand because I've only been here for a short period of time. But you can find a loophole in anything, and you can capitalize or exploit what's not said rather than uphold what is said.
Oh, sure.
We can do that with anything we want. Of course we can.
Yes,
and if there's a commercial incentive, then great. Or if there's a ideology or you want to spread hate, laws were created to protect people. Right?
Yeah.
That's how I see it.
Yeah. Well, increasingly companies as well. Citizens United.
Yeah, but to put this one to bed for me, you guys can carry on talking about it, but I believe we live in an age now where you've got certain elements of the media redefining to us what privacy means.
Yeah.
There's a massive conflict of interest.
Yeah.
And then you've got social media platforms trying to redefine what free speech means.
Yeah.
Why? I wonder why you're doing that.
Yeah.
And again, so this has been happening for 15 years now, and we're living in this world where we've almost the laws have been completely flipped by the very people that need them flipped so that they can make more money and they can capitalize off our pain, grief, and this sort of general self-destructive mode that's happening at the moment. So there's conflict of interest is like the major piece here. And as you say, you want to shit on the kitchen table, just because there's not a law.
Yeah, good for you. You're within the bounds of the law. Congratulations.
Exactly, power back to the people.
Yeah. And you go to sleep at night and you're like, well, I didn't break the law. You feel good?
But Dax, it does come back to supply and demand.
Yeah,
right.
Totally.
If we collectively became better at not clicking on and not spreading or sharing the things that we know are putting other people through hell, then there's no market for it.
I totally
agree.
agree.
The more depressed and the harder life becomes, we end up surrendering to the information parallel with our own feelings.
Yeah.
That's the information that we end up sort of being drawn into.
Yeah, and the last stop is the pound and the dollar. I mean, it's literally that simple, to your point. If no one can profit on any of this stuff, it vanishes. Okay.
That was fun. Cheers,
Yeah.
I got so much I want to say about the First Amendment. I still don't understand it, but it is bonkers.
There you have it, folks. Harry understands 100% what he is doing to his family, to the public, and to this country. What do you think? I'm interested to hearing what your thoughts are. Please leave your comments below, and as always, I will be back soon with more content, but until then, please be safe, and I'll talk to you later. Bye!
I was such a fraud.